Thank you, Professor and Miss Lasco. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, you young warriors of Philippines. Thank you. Now, before I start this, I'm going to share your screen. Right? We're going to talk about the careers in logistics and supply chain. Now, before that, the most important thing about this industry is, do you have the passion? The catchword is passion. Logistics and supply chain talks about passion. If you have the passion, well, this is the right career. Well, in logistics, everybody says, logistics by itself stands separate. Some of them say it's part of. But just to give you a bit of my background. Now, in my titles you saw just now, I have about 20 over years in the logistics industries. I have been from the ground up. I'm a guy from the ground all the way to where I am standing now. Now, I worked for multinationals such as Dyson. I think you all know other Dyson quite well. Dyson is the world's biggest vacuum, or I would say the high-end vacuum cleaner, manufactured by Dyson Industries. They have a facility in Batangas as well. I was the regional head of logistics for them, and I was with Linfox, the international transporter. I deal a lot with DG goods, dangerous goods they call it, and gases and stuff like that. So I've also handled haulage industries. I have managed transportation in varied specifications, air, sea, and land. I've worked with some technical and very theoretical industries as well, where they use a lot of AI to in manufacturing, process improvements, and stuff like that. So in that the background which I have, it's actually given me a clear insight of what the world requires today in this industry. Now, when you talk about a doctorate in logistics, the first time when I got there and I came out, people says, "What? Doctorate in logistics? Why does a guy who wants to move something on a truck need to have a doctorate in logistics?" Nobody understood what he mean by the need for qualifications in logistics. People never even thought 10, 15 years ago that a diploma in logistics was essential. They say either your logistics means it's just a sublime industry, like what Haji Abi was saying, it's a backwater industry earlier, right? People were thinking that logistics was nothing. Now, what I always thought and believed, if you have the passion to succeed in logistics, you need to understand what logistics is made of. Now, logistics is not only made of people who are doing some work or facets of business, but it's also an industry which clicks your mind. It scratches the tip of your brain and tells you, what can I do better every day? It's a sunrise industry, an industry which will not fail. And while deep diving further on some projects, I have seen bigger challenges with people understanding how it can be changed or evolved into better facets. So when people started to see, systems being applied and re-engineering logistics from just a normal trucking companies to companies with geofencing. Geofencing is trackers, tracking their virtual movement of goods and items, into various places, and up to now, where you have mobile movements, drone supply lines, robot deliveries. All this started somewhere. Now, if you go into logistics by itself, it is a new evolving chain now. Why I'm saying a new evolving chain? Because the chain previously was not clear to the market, but today it has stood up as the nexus of the future, right? It stands as the nexus of the future. It creates a very important frame in each and one of us to understand. Now, if you look at the industry itself, I'll go here. We can see clearly that it is a rapid expanding sector. Now, as you say, it moves from the menial job to a more professional setup. So the kind of people or qualified people required in this industry is extreme. There is a great requirement for knowledge-based logisticians. These logisticians are people who have gone through the cycle. Now, logistics is a core element of supply chain. Now, supply chain is huge. Now, I have a master's in supply chain as well. And when you do supply chain and you collaborate supply chain and logistics together, you would see they are an end-to-end process. They are the hub and spokes for the final mile. Now, in e-commerce, you talk about hubs and spokes. But in logistics, you have a hub and spoke in the advanced sector from the core sector. It starts on the core sector and advances to the final mile. Now, we look at the expansion of logistics sector, the salaries have been increasing, right? Salaries have been increasing in this industry because they need professional logisticians. So for you to become a professional logistician, you need to have the basic fundamental know-how of logistics. But it's not only theory. You need to have the certificate with a bit of practical. Because only with practical and theory, this is the kind of industry where both merges together. They work in tandem. Whenever you talk about logistics, it is a tandem process. It is an industry, it is a line where it needs to collaborate for it to achieve the ultimate goal. See, the degree of AI adoption in this industry is massive. You can clearly see in this graph in front of you, the implementing stage is 17%. The picking stage, the piloting stage is 15%. That means the industry is rapidly moving in the area of AI. And you can also see below there the business sections, which clearly state that 63% are the cutting edge transportation costs. Because people evolve, systems evolve. But for systems to evolve, people need to be having a passion to understand them. So salaries are getting better. There is an increase of AI, heavy application of strategic thinking, and highly mobile function. It is no longer an industry of people without qualifications. It is a very highly technical, intelligent, and persuasive industry because it is requiring people of certain stature, certain knowledge being. So it is, don't think that logistics is just a simple thing, you know. I only make sure that I have operation mindset. I need to know a bit of trucking, a bit of this and a bit of that. No, it is now evolved. You need to be a strategic thinker because you need to plan. You need to have the planning mindset, which you'll be trained in your certifications. You know, you'll be trained. But most of the industry today are teaching logistics as part of a multiple number of subjects. You do A subject, B subject, 3 subject, and then you have logistics at the end of it, and then you become a logistician. No, it doesn't work like that. Yes, you need to have the knowledge of A, B, and C, but logisticians need to have a core understanding of logistics itself, especially supply chain. Because logistics sits in the supply chain, it is a segment, a huge segment of supply chain. It makes supply chain succeed. The elements that dictate supply chain is what logistics helps you to do, right? So if you go down, if you can see here, the orderly distribution of resources present in all industries. Logistics is one of the most important career fields. Again, I'm telling you, it is a sunrise. It is not a sunset industry. It deploys a lot of planning, a lot of thinking. Now, nowadays, in this new industry, people, those warriors out there from Philippines, you are going to be made into people. We're going to create you. You know, if you're taking this industry, you're going into this industry, especially with passion. Again, I'm telling you, with passion, you would be one of the future thinkers or the current thinkers of the future, right? Why am I saying this? Is because logistics has to be present in your stream of thinking. You are thinking every day to solve a problem. If you enter this industry, it is not a 9-to-5 job. It is an industry which is going to keep you awake 24/7 sometimes. Sometimes. I'm not scaring you, but I'm making you think that this is going to help you plan and execute. You need a lot of planning, execution, strategic thinking, understanding. Most of the logisticians not only understand supply and demand, which is part of what you understand, you study, but it's also meaning of you play a part in all these industries. You will gain an insight of all the industries because logistics is required in a paper mill, in a wood making, door making factory. You also manufactured in a steel making factory. In every industry you go, even aeronautical, maritime, rail, logistics, and supply chain is the key fundamental. You will need a logistician there. You will need a logistics manager there, a logistics executive there, a logistics clerk there. You would also need people who would understand about logistics there. So there's no way that you will not get a job. That I can assure you if you start going into this field, in this industry, because it is going to evolve, right? There are many types of businesses, big, small, who need managers, right? For example, inventory. Now everybody goes into a shop. Everybody looks into a shop, looks into a supermarket. They look into big, warehouses, and they say, how are they able to pick exactly what I want from one click of a button? That's where you come in. That requires planning, strategy, picking, allocation, and deliveries. These are the core elements. When in my time of in MNCs, in huge organizations, when you spend 149 million pounds on air freight. I mean, my major target was to bring down the cost of 149 million pounds a month on air freight to maybe about what, quarter of it, maybe about 97 million or 100 million, something like that. How do I reduce the cost? That'll be what you'll be doing. How do I reduce the cost? So how do I efficiently trigger control, inventory control management? How do I do elements like the Pareto analysis, which is part of statistics? So you will be having this kind of challenges. You'll be also knowing and understanding what are the accounts you'll be faced with. What kind of accounts? Accounts here mean not accounting in per se. Accounts mean the different types of departments, a different kind of deliveries. You could be having 50 different supply chain areas, supply chain conduits for final mile deliveries. There are systems in place, like the SAP system, which has got a logistics module, which works with the ERP system. The ERP system is known as the Enterprise Resource Planning Mechanism system, which connects with the logistic mechanism, because all deliveries, requires, and planning come into this facet of this business. So believe me, it's a wonderful industry. It's an excellent industry, but you got to take the first step. That is to find out more about this and get involved. Now, there are a lot of job titles in logistics. There are analysts, consultants, customer service managers, international logistics managers, inventory control manager, logistics engineer, logistics manager, logistics services salesperson, logistics software manager, materials manager, production manager, purchasing manager, supply chain manager, system support manager, transportation manager, vendor managed inventory coordinator, warehouse operations manager. So you're telling me there is no market for this industry? There's definitely a lot of opportunities. As you can see, these are only some of those areas which you can see, right? Now, if you look further, the entry levels, now you need to have at least a certificate. You might not have the background, but a certificate. Now, in the certificates which are being offered to you, they would be very much focusing on the field of you learning from the basics. The basics are so important. Once you've mastered the basics, you have mastered a little bit of the understanding of the industry itself. There are challenges to it. A van driver is so important to the logistics industry. Believe me, when I started off in this industry, I was only doing customs clearance. A guy who was doing customs clearance, meaning which I was doing paper passing. We call it in Malaysia paper passing. Take a document, go to the customs, get it endorsed. We call it K1, that is for import, and K2 for export. That's where I started off. And blah, 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 and so am I here. So meaning which, in logistics, there are extremely a lot of learning opportunities, right? No one is kept aside. Everyone, unless he wants to learn, is given the opportunity. Now, if you go further, now logistics works in virtually every industry, right? As you can see over here, you've got aerospace, airlines, auto, right up to education. Now, education is the kind of field that once you gain all your experience, you come and sit like me and Tona Jahabi and all your professors and all your people over there, involved here and teach. But while during that period of reaching that stage, you will also understand that freight forwarding is not only logistics. Freight forwarding is part of the logistics. So these are items which are sitting very clear from stage 1 to final stage. But logistics itself is very wide. Supply chain has got its cores. But remember, there are more developments in supply chain, such as what is studied by MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They are gone very much into getting us logisticians or supply chain specialists understanding the collaboration of minds, right? Collaboration, like Jeff Bezos has got his Amazon, I mean, all this, these guys are going into AI-centered warehousing and control mechanisms, final mile, robotics, and all that. But before you can touch that platform, you must understand the underlying factor is the basics of how these elements work. So education really helps you, especially this part. As you can see, you have a very clear supply chain career path. You have industries over there, multiple industries. You have extremely a lot of service providers and a lot of functions. So you can pick it. You can pick a job, right? Now, it is salary scales start and vary, right? There are all kinds of salary scales which will help you when you get into the industry. But remember, the first start is just certification, right? Now, next, I'm looking at the supply chain areas: inventory planning, transportation, packaging, and warehousing. Now, inventory planning, I was speaking to you earlier, it's about what's in warehousing. So warehousing, inventory planning works together very well, but inventory planning now has gone more dynamic. It's become extremely dynamic. It does not necessarily sit in warehouses, a huge number of quantity, because it's doing the just-in-time process using the Kanban process. As we go into the Kaizen concept, which is also part of the logistics, remember that it's called Lean Sigma, Lean Management. They also come under logistics and supply chain. So it is extremely wide. But the first point of it is getting a certification. Again, now, as you can see, it's known as the House of Judoka. It is a concept, the core driver. The House of Judoka is a Japanese concept where you very clearly define what logistics has. The core drivers in logistics and supply chain is the bottom end. As you can see, you have the data system which holds, because in data system, you're talking about warehouse management, WMS system, warehouse management systems. You're talking about container tracking mechanisms. You're talking about transport tracking mechanisms. You're calling the cross-dome systems, which actually control about stocks in and out. And you're also talking about deliveries where you are tracked by barcodes. From more than barcodes now, it is just by a single pin drop on top of a box, right? So that's how well it is managed today. Then you've got the process, people and organization, matrix, and improvement tools. That's called process improvement tools. That's what we call the Kaizen concept. And then most importantly, the management aspect of it, when you climb the ladder, you are looking at coming to be a strategist. Logisticians are strategists. We strategize the application and apply the implications, right? The implication of a good process improvement plan is derived through the final result. So you are strategists. Remember, the warriors will become also strategists. If you go to war, as what Professor was telling just now, you're warriors. If you go to war, your general will definitely be a strategist. So you are going to be generals down the road. But let's start being a corporal first, yeah? So these are what you can see in front of you. Now, if you look at the key areas for risk assessment, there are risk assessments in logistics, right? Risk assessment is part of supply chain. Now, they work hand in hand together. It's no longer just delivery, but it's also execution. Now, the risk areas are probability of demand. You need to also understand how you forecast and how you plan demand. Forecasting is another challenge. Lead time analysis. Now, I'm talking now in my area, I will also talk about a lot of technical areas, a lot of in-depth knowledge of understanding. For example, like the forecasting of demand, lead time analysis, cost improvement analysis, cost benefit analysis, all this part of your logistics itself. Now, the likelihood of reliable supply, you can be buying from A countries, B countries, you need to understand that kind of a factor. How do you manage the risk? How you got to buy insurance? You see, you also are part of that area. Insurance comes into play. There is law in also logistics, where you all become maritime lawyer who needs to understand logistics as well. So logistics in every area of the field, it is a sunrise, it is an important core element. So you need to understand the many facets of it. Most effective allocation of resources. How do you allocate resources? Resources are so important. The excess allocation will cause you cost, because holding cost of any inventory is an impact to you. So this is also what a challenge is. The challenge for a logistician. So you are no longer a person, a backwater person. You are a person who is in the forefront of thinking, strategizing, and creating something new, right? Market growth. You analyze market growth. You analyze demand. So recently, you would have heard about the COVID crisis on supply chains due to the fact that shortage of containers in the market. Why were the shortages? Many ports were cramped up with containers because there are not enough vessels in the market. That could be a strategy by the shipping lines to say, hey, supply versus demand. If I supply less ships, I could get more containers delivered in a longer period of time by increasing the freight cost. Or most of the containers were stuck because all the choker block. It could be a choker block because there will be manufacturing hubs, manufacture a lot of goods, but they all are trying to clear their goods in time. But all of them are stuck in the port. There are insufficient vessels, or maybe probably the vessels are coming into play. Right? So this elements, increasing freight, increasing cost, increasing demand, these are also part of the logistics process. If you work in big industries, okay, opportunity cost for decisions. Now, what is the opportunity cost of me holding costs, holding the shipping industry in your hand? What is the industry of having a global supply chain contract, a global contract for container movement? So, like in Dyson, for example, they have an overall facet of business contract, logistic contract with many logistic companies or particular logistic companies who can give them X amount of rate pricing, demand, supply, and also movement control, right? To different markets, different areas. How do I have a global contract? How do I work on it? How do I strategize that? So how do I work with OEM? OEMs are manufacturers who produce goods for particular manufacturers. How do you manage that? How do you plan that? So this is another benefit of being a logistician. Now, as you can see, risk assessment of supply chains, whenever you go in risk assessments, you must understand low impact, minor impact. It comes into 5 categories. So you have low impact, minor impact, moderate impact, major impact, and loss. So this is one of the facets which you have. Now, of course, there's such thing as KPIs for this, which you also come into play, but there are also control mechanisms in risk management. There are also tailored risk management for increasing capacity, acquire redundant suppliers, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not teaching you a session. It's not a teaching session, but this is a session to give you understanding what you will be coming to face, right? In any industry, there is a strategic team. Now, logistics has got a huge team because from the day one, from receiving to delivery, the whole process, end-to-end process, you need to understand there is risk management, planning, and strategy. It's a very interesting industry if you have an idea or passion about it, right? Now, as you can see, the predictive forecasting and modeling using AI and big data. This is only a case study. On top of it is only a touch. I'm touching only on the surface of it. But you see, there are many facets of it. Now, those people will say, oh, do you use a lot of analytics? Oh, do I have to understand maths so much? Do I need to, I'm so scared. I don't like maths. I don't like thinking about numbers and all that. No, don't worry. It is not that difficult, right? While you take the courses, you will learn to understand the basics, elementary levels of logistics itself. The basis of logistics is the basics of everything. You need to know a little bit of maths, you need a little bit of science, you need a bit of everything, because you will be dealing with products. There are different kinds of products involved. So these are what I mean, like machine learning engine. What do you mean by a machine learning engine? An engine which is actually compromising collection of data, processing it. They are going to do the work for you. But what you got to do is, how are you going to think? How are you going to apply? How are you going to achieve? That would be where you come. The machines help you. So gone are the days you take a calculator and you start doing the sum, this, then I do the pie chart, blah, blah, blah. No, systems do it for you nowadays. So that's how advanced logistics is. But the core fundamentals, the certifications are so important. Most of the students I've trained, very senior people and also junior people, the challenges when it always comes to me, the question is, oh, it's so complicated. No. And then later they find out when they go through the process, hey, it's very easy. It's because it's how you are taught. If you look at a standpoint or being complicated, it will be complicated because you have no, the passion is challenged. But you have the passion to understand, just understand on the basic elements of it, it will be so exciting because you are touching everything. A guy with IT knowledge can also enter logistics. A guy with engineering knowledge will be also enjoying it. A guy from a carpentry knowledge can also understand and love logistics because everything has a flow. There's a start and there's an end. The end becomes when you deliver whatever you have promised, right? So this idea of AI and big data, it's a very good thing to absorb now, because even in markets now, for example, when shipping data comes out, you have a shipping tracker. You go into a system and you track shipping, where your container is, where the plane is flying. You have an air tracker, you have got plane trackers, you got airline trackers, you got ship trackers, you even track everything else. Why do you track? Because you need to know where your thing is going. Some of them track it for fun. Who's tracking what? We don't know. But most of the time, you're tracking for something. The gist of it is the goods or items you're wanting. Even if you buy a thing through Lazada or you buy something, you're tracking, right? You have a tracker. Why does someone has built the tracker? Using big data, simply AI. So these are the elements of logistic industry, which is very exciting. But it starts with you and your passion. Now, not taking much of your time, but let's go into a little bit of the big data analytics. Why am I talking about this? Because big data is logistics today, right? 46% of improvement in customer service and demand fulfillment. Now, big data is benefiting supply chain businesses 46% on improvement in customer service. Customers just want to know, where is my good? When will it be delivered? What is it? Now people can tell you the kind of wrapping you have, right? How was it wrapped? Was it bubble wrapped? You can even know what was the condition that you pick up and what is the condition it's going to be in when it delivered. That's the next level. But this can only be done through AI, through tracking processes, systems, which are developed. So, in a nutshell, the beautiful thing about this industry and job trends is, according to recent reports, Malaysia has about 70,000 supply chain jobs in Malaysia. And at the end there, the fastest growth recorded company with other business category will be the category jobs is under logistics, because logistics itself has got the demand process. Even in Forbes, you can see in Forbes, the best jobs in the US for business category for candidates bachelor's degree is logistics. Logisticians, which is ranked as number 8 in the list. That include accountants, actuaries, auditors, and financial analysts. You have more in-depth knowledge about this if you are studying the stages of logistics and supply chain. You are actually among the most demanded of people in the market. There will be no challenge to you if you have specifics, because across the board, there is jobs. You are demanded anywhere in the world. Even in the tiniest island, in the tiniest place, somewhere, that requires logistics. Nothing moves. Everything that moves on the road needs logistics, right? Now, salary range in Philippines, I believe the starting range stands 15 to 20,000 pesos. And these are the number of companies, like I believe I heard about San Miguel just now, acquiring something in Philippines, organizing companies, and Maersk. These are people. I used to work very closely with DB Schenker, Maersk, and all these people, CJGLS. I used to work with some platform standby processes creation, working together with them, developing new systems, control mechanisms. These are very nice industries, and they absorb a lot of young people, young warriors with passion in logistics. So this is what I would say. That's an outlook. The outlook is going better. In fact, better. That it will get better because of the e-commerce platform, right? The final mile, the hubs and spokes, more will grow. AI will be used. You will get openings. You will get a lot of chances. But first of all, you need to understand that, as you can see, the multimodal transport is growing. Have your vision, put it in the facet, understand that you are in an industry that is fast moving. When you're fast moving, you need to gear up. You're young, you're energetic, you want to go. But there is no entry level or age for it, yeah? You can enter if you like it and you want it. No one's going to stop you. You have the desire, this is the place, right? So thank you very much. As I've not taken, hopefully I didn't take much of your time. But if you have any questions there, please feel free to throw it at me. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Charles Winston Shalia, for enlightening us in this topic called career opportunities in logistics and supply chain management. Sir, I would just like to delve into this topic a little deeper. I have prepared two questions here. Most of our participants here are students.
Yep.
They are about to go out of their institution and be part of the logistics and supply chain industry. Now, in relation to that, sir, many students are asking, do I still need to have a formal qualification in order for me to enter into the logistics industry?
If formal in the sense that if you want to get a well-paying job, or at least a proper basic salary. No, if you are going to take some menial jobs in logistics. The difference is quite clear. If you're going to be a truck driver, you still need to have, it's still logistics. A driver's license is fine. But if you're going into warehousing, if you're going into inventory management, if you're going to become a logistics clerk, it will help to have a basic certificate.
Okay, so that explains why even entry-level positions needs formal and ample qualifications before they can be considered for the job. Anything that would be lower or anything that is really not that applicable or lower than what is prescribed may be a ground for them not to be considered for an entry-level job. Thus, they will be asked to get additional certification or additional qualifications. Okay, thank you for that clarification. We have one question here from the chat box. I think we could accommodate this one.
Sure.
Rose Ann Liabore asks, she is a part of a procurement organization as a sales associate. She still encounters consumers who somehow have not learned the new normal in ordering products. In terms of orders that are still getting delayed, is there any solution that we can provide to our customer when we cannot control the production as we only serve as a middleman between the manufacturer and the consumer?
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you very much. Now this question and the answer is very technical because the supply and demand will always not match in this world of imperfection. I won't say perfection, I'll say imperfection. There's always challenges. Now, the customer knows that you are a middle person. That's what you said just now. You're a middle person. You're trying to match the supply and the demand cohesively. But knowing that, if you create an understanding, if you are able to create an understanding with the buyer or the guy who's in demand, who's demanding the product, if you create an explanation case study for him, explaining to him in simple language that what we produce is based on what we can within a certain period of time, and delivery will also take the challenges. So this is the only basic element which you can actually apply. Because if you are going to promise him that, oh, we will change, we will make some changes, don't worry, we'll get better, that is normal. But these promises can never be met in this imperfect world because COVID has challenged that. Suppliers cannot meet it sometimes because the lead times could change. Vessels are delayed. Ports are being congested. So how are you going to compete? You can't. So you need to create a very clear evaluation process and explain to them what is happening now. This is where you need to get procurement and logistics working together to give a proper, clear timeline and delivery process. This is what I can say from my wisdom.
All right. I hope Rose Ann got that answer from our resource speaker. Just to put this in the nutshell, sir, you are proposing a solution wherein we could still explain to our consumers of what is the current situation or what is the real score of why is it that most of the items were undelivered or undelivered totally or not delivered at the right time or at the right place, we could explain it to them, and I think most of the customers would understand. Most especially, one of the reasons why most of the parcels were delayed or deliveries were hampered, it's because of the situation regarding the pandemic, and of course
Agreed.
border controls, and
Yeah.
of course
Custom formalities.
customs formalities, and of
Mm.
course governmental regulations and
Relations. Yes.
interpretations on the pandemic and border control. So I think most of our customers would understand, no, and it is with our side on how are we going to reach out to our
Exactly.
consumers. Okay. So that explains why. Thank you very much, sir. And as much as we wanted to accommodate all of the questions, I
Sure.
actually I have one question here, but
Yes.
this question has been explained in your slides, and it's about the salary levels, no, and
Uh-huh.
the incentives that
Yeah.
are offered, no. Um, I would just like to fire this question, sir,
Sure.
for as the last question for this session. Now, of all the
Sure.
salary levels and
Mm.
incentives that you had explained to us, what do you think will be the most enticing for the future logistics and supply chain practitioners?
You mean in terms of remuneration or in terms of career achievements?
It could be in a form of a career achievement or in a form of remuneration.
Oh, okay. Now, you see, those days, logisticians will can't, it's difficult for a logistician to climb the ladder or even become a general manager of a company or even be a CEO or a COO. But believe me, nowadays, aim for the sky because you can become the managing director of the company or even the chairman of the company because logistics has totally evolved. You want to aim for the sky, well, the highest position you can go is the highest you can go because organizations nowadays accept that logistics is a key fundamental and you are equipped enough with knowledge not only in logistics itself because you have financial background because you need to understand your fixed costs, your variable costs, and blah blah blah. That's how you manage your logistics. You need to know accounting, you need to know management, you learn everything, not a little bit, you learn quite a bit of it. So you spend a few years studying. So you can climb the ladder right up to the top. You can aim at being a COO. You can aim at becoming a CEO. There is no way. You can earn maybe 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 pesos. Well, I've been through that ladder and I can be honestly telling you, now they recognize this. And this industry, the next 10 years, it's going to be so in demand that I think we have most students coming knocking at the door to join this course.
I see. In terms of career advancement, I guess what we could impart to our audience in this session would be there's no easy way to get to the top.
Yes.
You really need to go from the bottom and
Yep.
get all the experience, be like a sponge.
Yes.
It doesn't need to have, you are going to learn book by book regarding each
Yes.
of the sector leading to the top. You should know a bit of everything so that
Yes.
when you mix those, you could apply all of those as you lead your own firm. Dr. Charles Winston Chalia, thank you very much for being with us on the second plenary session.
Thank you, Professor Ajay. Appreciate it.
Uh,
Thank you.
Could you please stay in the
Sure,
frame
sure.
as we call in the operations manager of Global Professional Advancement, Ms. Susan R. Velasco, to award you the certificate of appreciation.
Thank you very much.
So, Ports World Malaysia, in partnership with Global Professional Advancement, hereby awards this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Charles Winston in grateful acknowledgement of his unselfish sharing of time and expertise rendered during the third International Conference on Logistics and Supply Chain Management with the theme Career Advancement Pathways in Supply Chain Industry under the New Normal, Prospects and Challenges via Virtual Conference, given this 20th day of November at Quezon City, Metro Manila, Philippines. Signed, Juray Raj Govindasamy, Managing Director of the Ports World Academy. Yours truly, the Operations Manager of Global Professional Advancement and the President of the Academy of Developmental Logistics Incorporated, Samuel C. Bautista. Thank you very much, sir, for having with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Susan. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Charles, for imparting
you.
knowledge on our second plenary session.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you.